Hello, I'm DV, your humble GM and player, and welcome back to Ironsworn playing God Apothecary. Last episode, we captured Kova, the mystic, who was a traitor, and we were about to go with Keon to the trial for Keenan and Kova in Axecrag when Kova suddenly escaped when we were swearing our vow to help in the trial. So now we have to recapture Kova, which is going to be a troublesome task, but I think hopefully it shouldn't be so hard. It's not going to be a part of a separate vow. I just have to do this task before I can begin my dangerous vow of accompanying Keon to Axecrag, and that's going to be tough because we're going to have to figure out how we're going to deal with that whole trial situation. Get Keenan off the hook without implicating ourselves, so to speak. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is Kova has ran off and he is making his way into the woods now, and so we are going to try to capture him. So we're going to start running after him. And should that be a face danger, you think? I think so, because we're going to have to roll with speed and agility, and we're going to have +1 because we are having the help of Keon and the other children of the light as well. So we're gonna call it a +1 on that, and we are going to roll to face danger, try to catch back up with Kova, and we got an 11 against a double 5 strong with a positive twist. We succeed, take 1 momentum, and so we are running after Kova, and we see that he has fallen into a little, not a ravine, but like a little defilade of depressed area in the woods there that he didn't see. Like it's just a little sheer drop off. It's only about 10 to 15 feet, but it was enough for him to lose his momentum and fall down into the little defilade. And so we have caught up with him a little bit, and so now we are going to try to subdue him, but he's not going down without a fight. So we are going to go into... Before we attack him, I'm going to try to secure an advantage. So I'm going to take control, hopefully, of the situation. We're going to try to surround him. All of us are going to get around this little depression in the ground while he's trying to scramble back to his feet. And we're going to try to surround him and secure our advantage, block his escape. So we rolled a 9 against his 3 and 10. That's a weak hit. Your advantage is short-lived. Take 1 momentum. So we do mostly get him surrounded. However, there's so few of us that he still has an opportunity to try to make his escape. But we're going to go ahead and try to enter the fray and start closing in the circle and hopefully get him subdued here. So we're going to use heart for that. We're just going to continue to add our +1. We rolled a 4 against an 8 and a 2. I could burn my momentum to make it a strong hit. And I'll just prepare to act and take the initiative. Okay, so we get the initiative. We are going to strike, and we're going to use edge because we are using our long arm skill. And so dog moves up with his staff. Everybody's going to try to take him without killing him, of course. And so he moves up with his staff. I get a +1 because of my long arm, plus our allies, so that's a +2. We roll a 10 versus a 10 and an 8. Inflict your harm and lose initiative. Okay, so we do go ahead and we get some blows in. But unfortunately, Kova, he's a slippery little weasel, and we're trying to not inflict harm on him, but he has no such reservations. And so he's throwing rocks and swinging branches and doing everything in his power to keep us away from him. And so now he's going to pick up a piece of broken twig and he snaps it while looking at me, very distinctively summoning some sort of fell power. And so when he snaps that twig, he is trying to put some sort of curse on me. And I'm going to use Edge to see if I can close the distance and strike him before he finishes his little curse here. And I do. I score a 9. That is a strong hit against a 1 and a 3. I get to add momentum from my long arm. And I can also get initiative. I can bolster my position, take more momentum, but I can't because I'm already at 10. But I can find an opening and inflict 1 harm. And I stop him from casting his little curse that he was trying to cast on us. Alright, so now we are going to see if we can end this fight and capture Kova. We got a 9. We're going to add just 1 for our allies. We're going to roll. We got a 10 versus a 1 and a 2. That's a strong hit. We can mark that complete, and we have captured Kova. So we surround him and subdue him without causing him undue harm, and he is now back in our capture. All right, fantastic. And now we bring him back to our little caravan that we were putting together, and we're going to begin our adventure to Axcrag. Now, normally, if you're traveling in a caravan or whatever, you don't have to use the undertake the adventure, but I like doing that. So we're going to undertake a journey. We're going to go from Valemark here to Axcrag, which means we're going to have to pass through that mountain pass there in order to get to that. So could be interesting indeed. So we're going to undertake our journey. We're all set. We are leaving from our community, so I get to add +1. All right. So we're going to roll for our journey. And we reach a waypoint and mark progress, but suffer 1 supply. Or I could roll momentum. I got a 7 against a 7 and a 4. My supply is already down to 4. Do I want to burn momentum for this? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think as we set off, we remember that we didn't bring a change of underwear. And so that decreases our supply by 1, unfortunately. And we reach a waypoint. Let's see what we find for our first waypoint. Some fields. So the first place we get to are some open fields. They're low and wild, so there's nothing planted here, nothing for us to do. Now we could go ahead and try to make a little resupply while we're here in these fields and see if there's anything we could scavenge to bolster our supply. I think I'll do it. I don't get a benefit for that, but we're going to go ahead and roll. And we rolled a 9 against a 2 and an 8. That's a strong hit. That's 2 supply. Fantastic. So we're able to, even in this wild fields, we're able to scavenge out some much needed supplies. Maybe we find a little game that we can hunt to add to our provisions and overall make ourselves in a better position. All right, fantastic. So let's continue to undertake our journey. And I no longer get my bonus, so we're going to roll. We rolled another 9 against a 4 and a 2. That's a strong hit. We reach a waypoint, and we also mark progress by making good use of our resources. All right, fantastic. So let's mark our progress first. And let's see what waypoint we are at. Some rapids. Ooh. Strange and perilous rapids. Okay, so we come to a place in the river that is completely like rushing rapids, harsh rocks jagged up from the river, and they are rushing around there. Luckily, we don't have to cross here, so we should be able to undertake our journey without having to face the danger of these rapids. Well, let's just see. Can we cross in a less dangerous place? We're going to say it's likely since we got a strong hit. Can we cross in a less dangerous place? No. We go up and down the river, and unfortunately, for miles and miles in either direction, it's the same rapids. So we're going to have to face danger to try to find a way to ford this place that is very dangerous waters. And so we're going to go ahead and try to use some ropes and tie ourselves to our pack horses to make sure they don't get lost in these rapids. And we're going to try to find the least rushing water that we can ford these rapids in. So we're going to face danger, and we're going to use speed, agility, and precision to get across here. So we need edge. Alright, so we are going to face danger. Oh no! I rolled a 3 against a 4 and a 9. I could burn momentum to make it a weak hit, and I think I will, because I don't want to burn. Actually, my momentum is so high I can make it a strong hit, because I've got a 10 against a 4 and a 9, so I can burn both of those. Alright, fantastic. So I burn that momentum. I get a strong hit. That picks me up to a 3, and we are able to cross these rapids. We thought we were going to lose one of our pack horses there for just a moment, but in the end, Devin is able to secure the line and safely lead it across the rushing water into safety on the other side. Fantastic. All right, so we're going to go ahead and mark another progress on our journey for that, crossing those rapids, and we're going to undertake another portion of the journey. All right, we reach a waypoint and mark progress, but suffer -1 supply. It's a weak hit. Oh, we got to turn off burn there. We got a 5 versus a 3 and a 10, so we lose 1 supply here. Let's see where we are at. What's this waypoint? A steading. Ooh. Protected and peaceful. So we make our way and we find a small steading. It's kind of like a little waypoint for travelers going from Velmark to Axecrag. It's like a little way house. So it's a little house, and they have some small provisions there that people can partake of and rest and resupply. And so we're going to go ahead and make camp and rest and recover and see what we can do here. And since we well, I guess we get a bonus on this. My supply is 4, so we're going to roll +4. We rolled a 2, so that's a 6 against a 4 and a 5. That's a strong hit. Me and my allies each can choose 2 things. Take +1 health, so I'm going to do that. And I can also take 1 spirit, or take 1 supply, or when I break camp, I can add 1 to undertake a journey. I think I'll take that momentum. We'll prepare for the momentum. Okay, fantastic. Now, if I go over to my herbalist, I should have upgraded this herbalist to include this make camp, and then we could create a restorative meal, and we can partake without suffering supply. So one of the options is to partake, but you suffer a supply and get an additional +1 health. But unfortunately, I didn't upgrade my thing, and I don't think it makes sense just to upgrade it out here in the wild. We'll have to go and learn a recipe from our grandparents or something. So I'm not going to just do it out here in the wild. But we still had a good camp, and we were able to increase our momentum and our health, and it was well worth the stop here in this way station. Alright, so now we are going to undertake our journey further. We are going to roll wits. We rolled a 6 against a 4 and a 2. That's another strong hit. We reach our waypoint and we make good use of our resources. So we're going to mark progress. Alright, now we're up to an 8 on our progress. We could probably reach our destination. I think we will. We're going to roll with our 8 here and see if we can reach our destination. Okay, we arrive but face an unforeseen hazard or complication. Envision what you find. Ooh. Okay, so we did finish our journey, so we're going to mark that complete. All right. So, what happens when we arrive at Axcrag? Let's ask the Oracle and see what it has to say. Strengthen, isolated. Weapon. So while they were waiting for the trial, Keenan has been speaking to the Children of the Light here at Axcrag, who are the superiors of those in the Vale Mark. And he has convinced them that he indeed was blackmailed. And so the welcome that we receive is not as good as we would have hoped. They have a basic negative disposition towards us, and they are now wondering if they have the right man under arrest for stealing the tithe money. And so we're going to have to, before we can even talk to the court or anything, we're going to have to convince these guards, these Children of the Light that are accepting us into Axcrag, that we have further information about this case, including Kova, who we're going to try to frame for the theft of the tithe money instead of admitting our blame, because Dog, I don't think, is brave enough to admit to the Children of the Light that he stole that money and blackmailed Keenan. And so he's going to try to frame Kova, since Kova is already doing all these bad things. He's going to try to pile on and see. Did I not finish this? Find out what he's doing? Yes, I just didn't mark it complete. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Refresh that. There we go. So we're going to try to convince them that it is Kova that has been causing all this problem. So we're going to compel the Children of the Light here in Axcrag that we have further information about Keenan and Kova. And we're going to use Shadow because we're going to try to deceive them. Alright, and I still got my +1 from my potion. It doesn't expire until... Go back to Alchemy. They add +1 when making moves with a related stat until their health, spirit, or momentum fall below 1. And it hasn't done so for me so far. So, we still have our +1. Alright, so our Shadow is 3. With our +1 modifier, so we're going to go ahead and roll Shadow to compel them to believe our story. Oh no! A 5 versus a 10 and a 5. A miss. I don't have enough momentum to change their mind. Oh no, they refuse to believe that Kova was responsible. Keenan has convinced them that it was me, the grandson of traders, of herbalists, who dare to defy the Lord of the Light's strictures. Oh, this is bad news. I do get to increase my learn from my mistakes, so that's good at least. And pay the price. I think a logical pay the price in this case is probably to take 2 stress. I think that makes sense. So I'm going to go down to 2 spirit. I'm going to go ahead and try to endure stress. Even though it could make it worse for me, it could, in fact, make it better. So we're going to try to endure stress from this horrible revelation. And I can use spirit or heart. They're both bad. But when we face mental shock or despair, suffer spirit equal to your foe's rank or as an appropriate to the situation. I just did. For spirit of 0, suffer minus momentum equal to any spirit. Then roll hard spirit, whichever is higher. Okay. So they're both the same. So we're going to roll spirit. And we rolled a 7 versus a 4 and a 9. That is a weak hit. We press on. So with a strong hit, I believe you get... What do you get with a strong hit? You can shake it off. Okay. We can add spirit back, or we can take momentum. So we didn't get to do that, unfortunately. We got a weak hit, in which we just press on. And so now the guards are... they lead us on into the village, but they already have a disposition negative towards Daug. And Keon, for that matter. They think that Keon, this is a power grab on Keon's part. And in fact, Keon is trying to become the next leader mystic of Veilmark. However, we're telling the truth that Kova is evil, but now they have they've been deceived by Keenan, which Keenan is telling the truth. And so this is going to be a difficult thing to convince them of the truth of the matter. And so I think now we're going to have to swear a vow. They're going to ask both Keon and I to swear a vow to testify at this trial. So basically the vow is to participate truthfully in this trial. So both as witnesses and as defense, or maybe we're partially on trial as well. And so we're going to have to swear a vow to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us, Lord of the Light. Okay, so we're going to swear a vow on heart. We're going to roll. Oh no, another miss! Oh my god, why? Oh, we got a 4 versus a 9 and a 10. That's a miss. You face a significant obstacle before you can begin your quest. Envision what stands in your way and choose one. Press on, suffer 2 momentum, and do what you must do to overcome this obstacle or forsake our vow. I can't forsake the vow, so we're going to go ahead and swear the vow here. And I think it's going to be a dangerous vow. It's in progress. And we're going to have to participate in the trial of Kova and Keenan, the double Ks. Okay, so we got no progress on that, unfortunately. And what happens, besides losing those 2 momentums, back down to 2, what happens when we're swearing this vow? What happens? Fortify, abundant, trap. So while we are swearing this vow, the Children of the Light have been working with Keenan, and they try to catch us in a lie. So even before the trial starts, they are, questioning us about, what happened? Tell us the truth. Where were you at? And all of these things, and trying to catch us in a lie about what happened. And so, yeah, really bad. we lost momentum due to that, and yeah, it's not good. And in fact, I think, oof, I'm not sure how we're even going to overcome this, because now they are definitely set against us. They are definitely set against us, and this is going to be bad. Okay, so now I think for this trial, we're going to have to basically compel them in multiple compels, and maybe a face danger, or maybe secure an advantage. I don't know. We'll see what we can do, but they take us to our rooms, and they're not cells, but we're definitely not free to move about Axcrag as free men. And Axcrag is a little bit of a bigger village than Valemark. You can see the roofs. Some of the roofs of the houses are tiled instead of thatch. There's a sizable blacksmith forge here in the town, and there's a busy market center where wagons are coming back and forth and delivering things and picking up deliveries. And there is a road that leads from Axcrag to the rest of the havens through the pass in the mountains. So Axcrag is on the very edge of the pass of the mountains, and if you want to go further into the havens, you have to go through this pass. But we are going to make our way to where Keon, man, all these guys have K names, don't they? We're going to make our way to, I just realized that, we're going to make our way to Keon's room, and we're going to try to strengthen our bond with him to basically get our story straight. So we do have a bond with him already, although it was damaged. We still do have our bond. It's a 4, and we are going to strengthen our bond with Keon and see if we can get our story straight about what happened that night. We rolled a 6 against a 9 and a 2. That's a weak hit. They ask something more of you first. Envision what it is. Okay? And mark the bond. If you decline or fail, pay the price. Alright, so I do get to increase our bond, but we have to do something for him first. Okay. So what should I do for him? What does he need? Inspect, depleted. Okay. Alright, so he is running low in some of that herbal remedy that keeps his blurry eyes at bay. And so he needs me to fashion an alchemic potion to increase one of his stats. And so I'm going to secretly go back into my room, and I carry around my mortar and pestle with me. And let's see if I can craft him the necessary potion. So we're going to create an elixir for him, and it's going to give him clarity or wits. So we're going to suffer 1 supply, and I'm going to roll wits. And on a strong hit, I create a single dose. Okay. Then the character who consumes the elixir must face danger plus iron and score a hit. Afterwards, they add +1. So we don't roll for Keon, so it doesn't matter. But we are going to suffer. Not suffer. We're going to roll wits, and we suffer a -1 supply. So we lose a supply. We're going to roll wits for our alchemist, and we're going to take this +1 off. We're going to roll. Oh no, a miss! A 7 versus a 9 and a 7. Why, Santa Claus? Why? Your recipe fails. Let the story dictate how this happens, and if there are any consequences to failure. And you may also consult the Mystic Backlash Oracle, since this is dependent on the type of setting you're running. This is a great opportunity to create your own table. Oh, wow. No! So my potion fails. Let's go ahead and go to my Learn from Mistakes for that. Oh my gosh. So, unfortunately, I gotta take this bond back from Keon because I wasn't able to make the potion as I promised. So my bond suffers from that. And in addition to that, let's take a look at this Mystic Backlash. What's the Mystic Backlash table? I don't think we're going to do that, but I'm just curious what's in this table. Let's see. Your ritual has opposite effect. You're sapped of strength. A companion is adversely affected. You destroy an important object. You inadvertently summon a horror. You collapse and drift into a troubled sleep. Interesting. You waste resources. Wow. Okay, well, we're not really doing a ritual, so I'm not going to roll on this, but this is very interesting. This is very interesting. In fact, I'm just going to say that we start a fire, and we're going to have to face danger to put out this fire. So while we're trying to craft this brew, trying to distill the ingredients, we catch our room on fire. And so we're going to have to proceed with speed, agility, or precision. We're going to use edge to try to put this fire out as quickly as possible. Get no +1s on that. We're just going to roll. Roll to 10 versus a 9 and a 6. That's a strong hit. Take 1 momentum. We're able to grab our blanket from our bed and smother the flames before they get too serious. And Keone pokes his head into our room and he's like, "How's that potion going?" And I sheepishly point to the scorched marks on my desktop, and he looks very, very disappointed. And he decides he is going to have to rethink his whole friendship with me. All right. And so we were not able to forge a bond with Keone. However, I am going to spend the rest of the evening securing an advantage to try to get together my story. I'm going to use wits for that. So I'm going to roll wits on secure an advantage. I roll an 8 versus a 9 and 3. It's a weak hit. My advantage is short-lived. I take +1 momentum. I'll take it. So I sit and I bring out a small journal and I start taking notes about all of the things that happened with Keenan and with Kova, just to make sure I have all of the details. And I still haven't decided if I'm going to tell the truth about my involvement with Keenan or if I'm still going to try to pin it on Kova. But I know that they're probably not going to just buy it without some very strong convincing. Okay, so the next morning, we are going to participate in the trial. I'm going to go ahead and give myself 1 also for the preparation because I did get a weak hit. And so, so they bring us into this longhouse here, and at the front of the longhouse are the Children of the Light and Child Edda, who is the leader of the Children of the Light here in Axcrag, and she is the superior of those in Velmark as well. She is presiding over this trial. And so she asks first for our testimony against Keenan from myself. And so I'm going to go ahead and try to compel her of my story that it was indeed Kova who tried to frame Keenan. So I'm going to try to convince them with heart. No, I have to use shadow because I'm swindling, so that's okay. I'm lying and swindling. I'm using shadow. All right, so we're going to use shadow. We're going to roll to see, can I convince Edda of my story? Oh my God, why? Why? Oh my God. Oh. Roll a 5 versus 7 and a 6. It's another miss. I have to pay the price. But first, I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I'm making lots of mistakes to learn from. And now I must pay the price. See what the oracle says my price is. A companion or ally is put in harm's way, or you are if you're alone. And so not only does Etta not believe me, she implicates Keone as having instigated my involvement in this whole thing. That she knows that from some other eyewitness testimony that Keone came to me several days before this all happened. And she brings in the testimony of that small child that I recruited to bring Keone back to my farm to give him the original remedy for his blurry eyes. So this little kid is scared to death of this whole situation, but he is very brave in his testimony, and I can't hold that against him. Although no mint leaves for him anymore, little traitor. So yes, the trial has succeeded. The first portion. Actually, no, I don't get to progress it because I failed in that hit. Okay, so dang, and so instead of being a trial for Keenan, it's certainly devolving into a deep mistrust for both myself and Keone from this child Etta. And so now Keenan is going to get up on the stand and he's going to tell his story about, how he had to punish my grandparents and that he thinks I am seeking out some sort of vengeance against him and that I was involved along with Keone. And I have to try to convince them that that's not the case. But since it's a lie, it is the case. It's going to be Shadow. And I'm going to roll once again on the compel to try to convince them that what he's saying is untrue. And I rolled a 9 versus a 5 and a 2. It's a strong hit. They'll do what you want or share what they know. Take +1 momentum. If you use this in exchange for gather information, you use that move now and add +1. I think I will. So I tell them that, Keenan is lying. He is in cahoots with Kova. They've been ruling Velmark with an iron fist, undermining the teachings of the Lord of the Light and instead embracing the Lord of the Shadow, the Lord of Darkness. And so I'm going to try to gather information from, and they conclude for the first day of the trial. And so I'm going to go out and I'm going to start asking questions around to people who know Kova and see how well did Kova and Keenan get along. And so I'm going to try to gather information about Keenan and Kova's relationship from the people that know him here in Axcrag. We rolled a 6 versus a 2 and a 7. That's a weak hit. The information complicates your quest or introduces a new danger. Envision what you discover and take 1 momentum. Right? What did I discover? Scheme collapsed. So they were in cahoots all along. Interesting. So that's why that Keenan was so vehement against convincing everybody that it was me and Keone, because Keone and I know the truth about Kova, and Keenan is worried that he's going to be exposed as a traitor to the Lord of the Light, not only for his supposed theft of the tithes, which is not true, but he was doing something far, far more sinister and worse, and betrayal of the Lord of the Light. And so the second day, we begin the trial once again, and they start talking about Kova, and I'm going to try to compel them once again about what happened with Kova. And this time I don't get to use Shadow. I have to use Heart because I'm telling the truth. And so we're going to tell the story about what happened with Kova, about how he was summoning some dark energy, and we're also going to throw in there the information we gathered. And I'm going to add +1 for that, for the information we gathered from the people who knew Keenan. And we're going to roll for a compel to see if we can convince Child Etta of the truth. Oh, no. A 5 and an 8. It's a miss, but I can burn my momentum and make it a weak hit. I'll burn that 5. I think I will. That will put us down to a weak hit, which allows us to take 1 momentum, which will put us back up to 3. And use this in exchange to gather information. I don't think we're going to do that. But they also asked of something from us in return. So we convinced them that there was some sort of connection between Kova and Keenan in relation to their little power struggle or power grab with the Dark of the Light. With the Lord of the Dark. And so I'm going to go ahead and increase my milestone on that. We have convinced them a little bit. However, they want us to go out and gather more information about Kova's involvement with the Lord of Darkness. So they ask us to go interview some people who knew Kova. And so we're going to go out into the town and we start talking to people, and we are going to try to gather some information about Kova, who we don't know that well. And we make a terrible roll of 4 against a 10 and a 6. That's a miss. We unearth a dire threat or reveal an unwelcome truth that undermines your quest. Pay the price. Oh my gosh. Okay, so unfortunately, while we're doing this investigation, we find it's not just Kova and Keenan. This conspiracy, this worship of the Lord of the Darkness runs deep in the children. They should be called the Children of the Dark. There are so many people that suspect the children, both in Axcrag and Velmark, of all being a part of this dark cult. They are not true children of the light at all. It may even involve Etta. We don't know. But we know that it is more widespread than just Keenan and Kova. And so we have to pay the price. Causes a delay or puts you at a disadvantage. So I'm going to go ahead and take 1 momentum away from that. And we can say that our next compel in the court is going to be at a -1 instead. Because as we're gathering more information, we can see that the people are against us. And so as asked in the court, we are going to go back into the courthouse or the longhouse into the trial, and we are going to try to compel them once again about what we found out from our findings. So if I tell the truth, then I'll basically be telling Etta that the children are all corrupt, including maybe even her. You know, who knows? And so instead, I'm just going to use Shadow and I'm going to lie, but I'm going to take a -1 because of their predisposed disbelief of me. And so I'm going to roll. And I rolled a 3 against a 6 and a 1. That's a weak hit. I could burn my last momentum. I think I will. Because I can burn it and get rid of that 1. Why is that not got a strong hit? Should have turned it to a strong hit. Can you not burn momentum when you only have 2, perhaps? I should be able to burn it and make this 1. Okay, well, I'm going to say that I do. So we're going to call it a strong hit here. All right, I'm not going to take the positive twist. I just wanted to see what the strong hit result was here. Take 1 momentum, and we can gather information. Also, I cleared their suspicion of me, so I no longer have to take that -1. So now we're down to 1 momentum, unfortunately. But we were able to convince them, and so we take 1 momentum, which puts us back up to 2. So we tell them about how Kova and Keenan are acting alone. You know, we try to frame it so that they're more likely to implicate Keenan and Kova to further protect these cult members that have not been outed. And so we're able to convince them to implicate Keenan and Kova, and they basically buy it. They buy our story because it helps protect the rest of these children that are also evil. And so we're going to try to bring our quest to an end here. We're going to try to fulfill our vow. We have what's our chances here? Like 80% or something? I've got a 49% chance of a strong hit, a 42% chance of a weak hit. All right. So we are going to select the track, participate in the trial of Kova and Keenan. We're not going to add anything here. We're just going to roll. Can we get a strong or a weak hit? Yes, we can. We roll an 8. Or, well, the track is an 8. Against a double 4 strong with a positive twist. Our quest is complete. Mark the experience 2 for dangerous, which this one is a dangerous quest. And mark the track is complete. And then I'm not burning momentum. And since it's got a positive twist, I'm going to say that first let's get our experience up to 7. That's awesome. We are now up to 5 available experience. So when I get back to Velmark, we can upgrade some of our stuff there. But the positive twist is that Etta comes to us after the trial is over. And Keenan and Kova have both been sentenced to execution by beheading. And so there is a public execution in the square in which they're both beheaded. Keenan and Kova both crying out that they have been framed the whole time, but no one is listening to their excuses. And so I think my background vow here is going to progress to 7. Well, we'll go ahead and say 8 because we have killed Keenan, basically. And so we're going to complete this thing. There we go. So that's good. We got a little bit of extra progress with our vengeance and the church. But we know there's something deeper here that we're going to have to uncover in order to fully fulfill this vow. We're going to have to get to the root of all of this. And so Etta comes to us after the trial and the execution. She pulls us aside. And she is very earnest. And we can tell, well, is she earnest? Let's see. Let's see what her disposition toward us is. She is curious. Okay, and what is her goal? Roll twice. Advanced status. She believes us, and she wants to help install Keon as the next mystic. And she wants me to join the Children of the Light and become his main child, because she doesn't trust the Children of the Light in Velmark, and she thinks that I am honorable and worthy despite my family history. She thinks that I would be a good addition to the Children of the Light, and I would be the head enforcer for Velmark to help protect Keon against these underlings that have instilled themselves in the ranks of the children who are in the Lord of the Darkness. And so she asks me, Dog, will you swear a vow to the Lord of the Light to serve him and to further the light in the conquest of darkness? Well, the question is, will I? That's going to be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure and hit that like button. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.